Whoa, 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 whoa.
What's the problem?
This
What's the matter?
This is not a Jet show.
So what?
So how about this?
Manning lobs it. Boris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Oh, come on. I don't want to hear this.
Why not? Super Bowl champions.
Doesn't matter. I just don't want to hear it.
What do you want to hear?
How about some Mets?
Hey, if I can find one good thing that happened to the Mets, here we go.
Home run. Mike Piazza. And the Mets lead 3-2.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be, I'm sorry. We all can't be like the Yankees.
Oh, speaking of.
This one by Mattingly. Oh, hang on to the roof. Goodbye, home run. Don Mattingly.
No. God, I can't believe I just said that. All right, well, listen. How about a little Nets?
If I have to.
Kid, the jumper to win it. He got it.
I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. It's been a second. I can't take it. How about some Knicks?
Oh, yeah, big spenders. Can't win a playoff.
Fair enough.
Houston pops out up top, down the lane, running jumper off the front rim, and in.
I guess we should talk a little hockey, no?
People even watch hockey anymore?
They watch the Rangers.
Well, if you have the Rangers, you gotta have some violence.
Yeah, no, they didn't have YouTube in the 80s.
All right, let's get the show started.
Here we are, polar opposites. Hello and welcome to the Polar Opposites podcast. It's been a couple weeks, but we're on polaropposites.podbean.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at polaropposites1. We are on iTunes, and we are live right now on Spreaker.com. I'm Matt Stevens. Alongside me, as always,
is Craig Moffitt.
And Craig!
It feels like it's been like an eternity.
It
2
is
weeks,
so many
weeks.
things have happened. Tony Romo retires and takes over Phil Simms' job.
Which apparently
Mello and Lala broke up.
Oh, is that official?
And apparently.
Kristaps Porzingis is now back in Latvia because he blew off his exit interview.
Which I'm totally down with.
Oh, I have no problem with that
right
whatsoever.
ahead. You're run by a friggin' chuckle-headed ass clown who wants to continue to do something that nobody wants to do.
Not only did Joakim Noah get suspended for 20 games, now he needs rotator cuff surgery, so he's going to miss 4 to 6 months.
What happened? Like, that's what I want. We're not going to talk about the Knicks and Nets. We decided it's literally not worth it. Like, it's really not. But I got to ask this. Because Joakim Noah, now, his original injury where he hadn't played was not his rotator cuff, right? So he's out, and then he gets suspended. What the fuck did he do to hurt his rotator? What is he, the Dustin Johnson? Was he falling downstairs? What the hell's going on?
They better not find out it was something not basketball related that caused that injury.
He was trying to. He was patting his own back.
Yeah, I guess
for being a physical player.
He's doing that dance when the Florida Gators won the championship a couple of years ago and just tore the rotator cuff.
Where we're going to start today is we're going to do a little baseball. We're going to start a little local. Then we're going to go broaden it out and go full major leagues. We're a full 10, 11 games into the season. So you're seeing some trends and some good play and some really brutal play.
But also a lot of surprises.
Oh, a lot of surprises.
Because a lot of teams that were predicted to be in the
Up
playoff
is down.
hunt is pretty much, they're all in last place.
Left is right.
Yeah, you brought it up before we started. The Cardinals, just getting swept by the Yankees. The Giants, Blue Jays, Texas, Houston, all off the bad
Not
start.
Houston,
Not Houston.
Indians.
Indians, all off the bad
The
starts
Rangers
right now.
is the
Rangers.
Texas team you're talking about, yes.
So, but
And then we're also going to do some draft stuff. We got the draft coming up. 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks? Or is it 2 weeks? It's next week.
It's a week from Thursday.
It's a week from Thursday. So
But
about a week and a half.
This week, schedule comes out.
Yes. Oh, can't wait for the schedule show.
Yeah.
One of the stupidest things in TV
4
history.
hours of just endless talk about what will most likely be Giants and Cowboys week 1 at MetLife.
Are you kidding again? Like, guys, can the Giants and Cowboys listen? And I'm not saying this just as a Giant fan, but I'm saying this as
Well,
also can you please not? Can we please?
Not. They may not because now they can because both teams are good, so they may try to build it up a little bit more.
What I'm saying is though you know how the last 3 weeks they've figured out how to make the last 3 weeks division games, right?
Yeah.
They figured that out because they were tired of people sitting down, right? Can't they figure out a way to make the first week not any division
or at
games?
least major division games?
Yeah, like if you're playing the Browns, well, that sucks for the Browns, but still. Anyway, baseball. We're going to start with baseball. We're going to start with the Mets.
Look at you. The
Mets had a tough weekend.
Fresh off that sweep of the Cardinals, I figured you want to go
No,
Yankees all in.
We are we're a pessimistic sports show, so I always like to start with the team that's not playing as well first.
Maybe that should be the name of this show.
And maybe the pessimistic sports show. That might be it.
The pessimistic sports podcast.
The Yankees are flying high, and we'll get to that. The Cardinals are not great, but still, you won, and that's all you got to do.
So here's what I figured.
We're gonna talk. Start with the Mets.
Okay, so here's what I figured.
Yeah.
talking about we're going to go into the local stuff. We're also going to just kind of do like a kind of a week in review type thing or 2 weeks in review. Very brief on what's going on in baseball. But here's what I want from each of us. One good thing, one bad thing, one surprising thing, and then one not surprising thing about the Mets or the Yankees. Okay?
Yeah.
So you want to start with the Mets?
Yeah, let's do the
definitely
Mets.
Start with the Mets.
Yes.
Okay. Good thing.
Yes.
Rotation's pitching well.
Yes.
Syndergaard pitching really well.
Sure.
DeGrom pitching really well.
Indeed.
Harvey, two good starts. I'm pretty pleased, even though I know it's only been like 6 innings. But I've been really pleased with the way he's pitched because he's not really relying on his fastball as much. He's kind of become, I don't know if I'm not saying a location pitcher, but 6 innings and basically giving up 2 runs a game, pretty good. So far to start with Harvey, especially coming off that, thoracic outlet syndrome surgery and everything. The back end of the rotation, Wheeler pitched okay. Didn't pitch great the first game, but I'll give him a mulligan because it was his first start in 2 years.
Yeah, it's like 8 years.
Okay, and actually the second game I thought he pitched a little bit better. But the only problem was he only went 5 innings and he was already about 85 to 90 pitches by then. And Gesellman's got off to a rocky start, but I'm gonna, again, I can't really get all batshit crazy about that too early. So that's that's the good thing. The bad thing is the bullpen is already overworked after literally 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And I'll give you, and I didn't even know this. Now, I don't really look closely at how many games these guys have pitched. I mean, I watch Met games, as much as I can, but I don't really look into how much each guy's pitched. One guy that they signed this offseason that they obviously must have put him in a pretty, important role is Fernando Salas.
Right.
The guy they got last year from the Angels. They got the waiver after he got placed on waivers and the Mets acquired him. He's already pitched 8 games out of 12.
Him and Robles.
Yeah. That is insane.
It's too much.
It's way too much.
It's too much.
Then I didn't even know this, that Jerry Blevins, granted he's a lefty specialist and everything, 4 games in a row he pitched.
Yeah.
4 games in a row.
Now, that might be 4 batters.
Maybe. I don't even know. I didn't see all the innings.
No, but I'm saying, sometimes you don't know what that necessarily means.
You got Addison Reed pitching 2 innings the night before, in the 16-inning game against the Marlins where they wound up winning. But it's just, to me, if Fernando Salas is already pitching 8 games in 12 innings, that is a recipe for disaster. Especially if he's on what you would think is a very important role, which is basically the 7th, the 8th. Now that Reed, once Familia comes back, Reed will go back to the 8th inning, and Salas is going to be that 7th inning guy, pretty much. But now he's in an 8th inning spot, but he's been pitching way too much. They all are. All the bullpen guys are, and they're pitching multiple innings too, inning and a half here. Now I don't know if that's just the case because, for example, the other night I know DeGrom only pitched 90. He only threw 97 pitches through 7 innings, struck out 13 guys like it was nothing, and then Terry pulled him. Yesterday, Harvey pitched only threw 92 pitches through 6 innings. Syndergaard went only 6 innings the other night before, even though it wasn't really his best outing against Miami. I understand if you're trying to protect the arms, but you're doing it at the expense of your bullpen, and you're going to gas these guys out too early, and you're going to get shelled.
Well, here's the biggest problem, and I'll let you finish your other 2 in a second, but this is the biggest problem the Mets have, and it has nothing to do with their major league team. The Yankees use their AAA squad as a arm replenishment system for their bullpen. But their AAA squad is in Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which to New York is you could drive it and still make it to the ballpark on time. So the Yankees, if a guy pitches 3 or 4 days in a row, they might send him down and bring somebody up. Now, not Betances or Chapman, not the main guys, but the other guys. So, if somebody has a crappy start, if Montgomery goes 2 innings tonight and they got to use Brian Mitchell for 6, they'll probably send him down and then bring somebody up and do that. It's hard for the Mets to do that. They had to do it on. They brought up what the hell's the kid? No, the pitcher kid they brought up on Saturday after the 16 innings.
Oh, Gil Martin.
Gil Martin, right? But then they didn't use him.
Yeah, and that's what I can't understand.
They bring this kid up. He was scheduled to start, and I know what Terry said. He said if that game went into extra innings, which it almost did, that he would have rode Gil Martin until he was done. But even if he's not, maybe you don't pitch Salas that game. Maybe you don't pitch Robles that. Maybe you give Gil Martin an inning of that game when he was supposed to start that day and is ready to go and is healthy and not tired and just pitch 16 innings. The Mets have to, and I know this makes no sense to bring this up now, but their AAA team has to be closer. It has to be closer. because it affects on how you get guys here. You can't constantly be shuttling guys back and forth because it's ludicrous. It's Vegas.
And the thing is, they're going to miss a day anyway when you may need them the most.
Right.
Now, on top of that, they had to keep Conforto on the roster, so they actually sent down a reliever. They sent out Paul Sewell, who only pitched one game. He didn't pitch that great, but it doesn't matter. But the fact is,
one game for reliever, you give up a run, you're screwed. You know, it's going to be 1,000.
So basically, I mean that was another roster decision the Mets had to make. So they were down another pitcher. At the end of the day, the last thing you want to see is the bullpen getting taxed because you're too worried about pitching one of your starters an extra inning.
Right.
Okay? It wasn't like DeGrom was at 110 pitches and threw 7 on Saturday. Now, listen, I at least have to give him the 8th. Okay?
I guess.
But again.
But, I mean, you got to also remember, dude, it's April. And both him
and
Harvey are coming off surgery.
And that's exactly why I'm not killing it. I'm just saying what worries me is, again, you're taxing the bullpen at the worst possible time.
The way to go is batter to batter, right?
Yeah.
If he gets past 105 pitches, you pull him. Maybe 110 pitches, you pull him, right? And you bring somebody in. Yeah. But if he's at 110 pitches at 97, he's probably let a guy on anyway. So there you go.
My guess is like I guess. Listen, Terry's Terry, and I know like we're always going to second guess his decisions a lot of times. Okay, but the fact is I have to at least go to DeGrom and say, you feel okay to go out for the 8th, unless there was a pinch hitter in that inning. I don't really remember.
But Craig, but that's the problem though. It's Terry's not making a decision. He's not making a decision. He's been told by a book, by a guy with glasses who's never freaking pitched a day in his life, that this guy has to come out at 97 pitches. He's not making a decision. Joe Girardi is not making a decision. Sitting Greg Bird today. They're not making decisions. These decisions are already made for them. They don't have to think anymore.
Because the thing is that this was a kind of a weird trend all week in the first week and into the second week was a lot of pitchers weren't going any longer than 6 innings. Very few.
Decisions he's not making.
Few. Like very, very few. I'm not talking about Terry. I'm talking about other teams in general.
That's what I'm saying. Everybody's using these metrics.
Like a lot of teams, 5 innings, 5 in the third, 6 innings. Like it was, and they were only at like 80-something pitches. Now, granted, last week was a lot colder than this week, and maybe that was an excuse. I don't know if that really plays as much of a role. But I'm saying, like, it was a weird trend right now.
Right, but that's metrics. That's numbers. They're saying that this guy, they know every single pitcher. They know now when you drink, right? And the next drink you're going to have is going to send you to the bad place. And that if you stop there, you won't go to the bad place. Well, that's what they have on pitchers now. They know the pitch where when they throw that 103rd pitch, right? Then their stuff takes a precipitous drop. And they never let the guy get there. So they never let the guy work through that, maybe a year or whatever. Like some guys just have bad days. Some guys can't go that long. Some guys can. Some guys can't all the time, but can sometimes. And so they don't even make the decision anymore. There's no decisions. It just is.
Now, the surprising thing is how bad Jose Reyes has been to start the season.
Yeah, it's bad. I mean, it's a little bit of a
Chase
Headley-esque.
Now, another surprising part is how good Travis d'Arnaud has started this season, because he has hit really, really well, including getting the home run in that 16-inning game where they won the game. But overall, he's been hitting much, much better.
Indeed.
So you take that and you take that. And then the last thing that I'm not surprised about, well, despite the fact the Mets can't beat the Marlins, the one thing I'm not surprised about is Jay Bruce's start to the season.
Jay Bruce is a good player.
I had a feeling like, I know last year he came to New York at the trade deadline, really from going from a last place team to a team fighting for a wild card. You kind of chalked it up a bit to like maybe he was trying too hard or whatever, and it was just not really working out. But this year so far in the first 2 weeks of the season, he's gotten off to a very, very good start. That is only going to help him as the season goes along. It's only going to help the Mets as the season goes along. But overall, like that is probably the one thing I was not surprised in the least about, that he got off to such a great start.
It wasn't surprising, but I mean, when you think about it, a guy plays in the same place his whole career, right? His family has roots there. So when he gets traded, he comes by himself. Mm-hmm. His kids might have to start school in the fall, whatever, and they can't come. So he doesn't see his family for a couple months. It's a guy who probably saw his family a fair amount. Now he sees them none, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no decompression there. You're basically sitting in a hotel room when you're not at the park. You don't know New York City. Now, you've been here a couple times playing and whatnot, but you've never lived here before. And all of a sudden, instead of 2 guys after the game, you have 50 after the game. And you're going 0 for 10 and 0 for 20. And the fans are booing you. And you don't know what that's like because in Cincinnati, you probably never got booed. I'm sure you did, but you know what I mean. It wasn't regular. So, yeah. It's perfectly understandable for a guy who probably never wasn't from a big city, isn't from a big city, and didn't play in a big city to be a little intimidated when he comes to the big city.
Yeah.
Happens to the best of them. Some guys can deal with it right away. Some guys need a little adjustment period.
And again, though, so that's probably it. But overall, look, the Mets have been fine. Again, we're not going to go crazy in April.
No.
I mean, it's not even worth it. But to be honest, I mean, they come out of the gate. They, again, I can't figure out why they can't beat the Marlins. It's driving me crazy.
There's teams like that. The Yankees.
They lose 2 out of 3 at Citi Field, lose 3 out of 4 in Miami. I mean, they have such a tough time. Doesn't matter who's on this team.
There's always teams like that. Remember? Like every team has that team in their division that they just can't beat.
Yeah.
Red Sox couldn't beat the Orioles for years. Very strange.
So the Mets start a 9-game homestand starting tomorrow. They play the Phillies, and they have their first series with the Nationals, and then they have the Braves again. That's another thing that's been a little weird with the schedule. They have played all division teams the first 2 weeks to 3 weeks of the season.
Yeah. But this is the time when you got to get fat, You got to get fat against the Braves and the Phillies. And the Braves are decent. They're not terrible.
They're not terrible.
They're not going to roll over. I'll put it that way.
I think they have some good young players. I mean, I kind of like the moves they made, getting, Brandon Phillips to kind of put him behind Freddie Freeman and stuff. So, I mean, they know they're not going to be a contending team this year, but it's just to build up for next year and maybe the year after.
And I don't think any of us are buying the Marlins at this point.
Well, we said it before. They're a team that, like we said it when we did our preview. It's time. What the hell? I mean, it's the same guys for the past 5 or 6 years, and
but they still don't have enough pitching.
Yeah, they've barely gotten. They can't even get to the wild card with these guys, pretty much. Now outside of Stanton, who is untradeable, I think guys like Yelich, Ozuna. I mean, like eventually you're gonna have to figure out, is this the team you really want to roll with for the next, 3 or 4 years? Because again, if it's just going to be the same team stuck in neutral and maybe has a shot at the wild card, but most likely they're just going to be a 500 team. It's time to start competing, and maybe that's where you hope this sale goes through that we've heard about for a while, but never has yet to come to pass.
To Derek Jeter, maybe.
Yeah, that was a rumor I heard. That was something I heard a few weeks ago.
Apparently, he does. He's not gonna get it. All right, so I got to do what now? Good, bad,
surprising, not surprising about the Yankees to start the season.
All right, the good, the veterans, right? Chase Headley's got off to a good start. Jacoby Ellsbury got off to a good start. CC Sabathia has been excellent. Aroldis Chapman has been excellent. Just like the veterans playing very, very well. And sort of carrying, like Greg Bird not hitting to start the season and losing Gary Sanchez and not having Didi. The fact that CC's had 2 quality starts, like absolute quality starts already. And the fact that Chase Headley's batting .400 and Jacoby Ellsbury's batting .340. Like, if you told me that at the beginning of the year, I probably would have laughed at you. I might have bought one of them, right? But not both of them. I mean, Jacoby Ellsbury batted 4th the other day. And yesterday batted 4th. The bad, I'm not going to say Greg Bird because I don't think it's bad. I think it's just a slump. Easy. The problem is that you have a slump in the beginning of the year. Your average looks like it sucks. If he had gone 1 for 24 in June, his average might drop 20 points. You know what I mean? Like it's just optics. The bad for me right now is there's not a whole lot. So I'm just going to say injuries. Like they've sort of overcome them, but I don't know how long they're going to be able to overcome the fact that Gary Sanchez and Didi Gregorius aren't in the lineup right now. Now they've gotten exceptional. Torres leads the team in RBIs, for crying out loud, and Romine's batting .370. So I mean, right now they're being held up by those guys. But we know, and if you've watched enough baseball, like Craig and I have, and all the people that are listening have, that utility players and backup players are backups for a reason. So a lot of times they're very good in short spurts, and you see that. So we might just be getting the benefit of a short spurt, but the injuries have not been great so far. And also Caprillion now is getting Tommy John surgery, and he was probably going to be called up to the rotation at some point if he hadn't been hurt. So there's just a lot of injuries right now. And also, let's be fair, Sanchez might be back in the middle of May. He might not. Like, you don't know, right? He could be out for 3 months. I mean,
this is what I guess my question is, what is the difference between the 10-day DL and the 15-day DL besides the fact that it's 5 days? Because even when you put the guy in the 10-day DL, he's still missing a month.
Well, but I like the 10 better than the 15 because it still gives you wiggle room to do stuff, but then the guy's not stuck on the 15.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They probably figured that most injuries, a guy needs 7 to 10 days instead of the 15, and the 15 was just wasting a guy. Mm-hmm. So they probably just figured on that. Surprising? Is that what I got to do now?
Surprising, not surprising.
Surprising is, I mean, I guess I got to say Michael Pineda, right? I mean.
For now.
Right, but that's the point. That's Michael Pineda. So you don't know what you're going to get, but his first start was good. It wasn't awesome. It was almost typical Pineda, but it wasn't quite as bad as that. His second start was unbelievably good, and his third start was really good. Yeah. So, you know, maybe he's figured it out. Is it possible he's figured it out? I don't believe he has, but I think right now, surprising, I'm just going to actually put the entire starting rotation in that. How's that sound? Because I think Severino's been pretty good. Now, we all expect Severino to be good, but I think he's been better than advertised. Really, the worst starting pitcher has been Tanaka, the guy who you all thought was going to be the best starting pitcher. Turned out to be the worst so far.
And it's not helping his cause when his agent is threatening for him to opt out.
Well, here's the thing. He'd be stupid to opt out, right? We'd all agree he'd be stupid to opt out because he's not going to make that much money on the open market, especially with a partially torn UCL. And the Yankees aren't going to pick it up. They're not going to re-sign him. They've already basically said they're not re-signing him if he opt out. So that's going to be an interesting sort of thing that happens right there. Surprising good is the sort of quality at bats. And I guess it's not really surprising, but it's just maybe it's happy good.
Right.
That Aaron Judge he looks like a totally different hitter. It's almost unbelievable. Now, his whole career has been like this. He goes up to a new level and he sucks. And then the next year he comes back and he's good in that level. And then he gets up to a new level and he sucks. So that's a trend you see. But when you watch him now, like he had an at-bat last night that he ended up working a walk that led to the double that scored a bunch more runs. And he was down, I think it was 1-2, right? And this guy was throwing, junk in the dirt and all sorts of different off-speed stuff, and he was just looking at it. He wasn't lunging. He wasn't swinging. He wasn't doing anything. His sort of pitch recognition and the way he sort of filled the major hole that he had in his swing last year has already shown massive good things to us so far. Now, he still strikes out, but everybody strikes out. If that guy strikes out 100 times, that would be, like, amazing. So he's really played well so far, including the fact that fucking Joe Girardi still, Aaron Hicks hits 2 home runs in a game and then sits him the next day. Greg Bird went 3 for 3 last night with a walk and one of the longest home runs I've ever seen in Yankee Stadium. But guess what? Guess what's happening today? Guess what's happening today? Guess what's happening today? He's sitting. Because you know who needs to get at bats? Fucking Chris Carter needs to get at bats, guys. Chris Carter needs to get at bats. The guy that you've been trying to get going for 10 games, finally gets going. And you know what you do? You sit him. You know why?
Because Chris Carter's a veteran.
No, guess who's pitching tonight?
Who is Quintana?
No, it's what the hell's now? I gotta go back to here because now I'm all riled up. I forgot the guy's name. It's a lefty. It's like Brian Dempster or something. It's not like him, but
Derek Holland.
Derek Holland, yeah, freaking. It's not like
I thought he was a righty.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's not Randy Johnson. It's not Chris Sale. If they were playing Chris Sale tonight and you guy just had a great game, right, and you don't want him to get jacked up by Chris Sale, like winging it at you, I would understand that. But it's Derek Holland. What are you doing?
So you're saying the losing streak could come to an end tonight because Chris Carter's in the lineup?
No, I mean, Chris Carter was fine. He had a big hit for us on Saturday. That was good when Holiday was out and he was DHing. But they also have him and Judge batting back-to-back. It's like, well, you have the same guy. It's the same guy. Just one is better than the other. It's what I was talking about with Terry Collins. These are not decisions that Joe Girardi is making anymore. These are not decisions that Terry Collins is making anymore. These are just things that they've decided already. I guarantee you that last week he knew that Greg Bird was going to sit today. No matter what the fuck he did. No matter what he did, it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. Because it's just the way things are done now. And so, look, the Yankees have been awesome so far, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would have thought that this was going to be the start they were going to get off to, right? But at the same time, like, if I'm Greg Bird, I'm a little annoyed. No, you're not going to. No, of course he's not going to say. I'm not. No, of course not. And he would be stupid to. But like, if you're Greg Bird, right, you got to be a little pissed. I mean, you just went 3 for 3. And you just finally found your groove. Mm-hmm. Stella got her groove back, and he has to sit again. It probably makes you nuts. It really does. Can I say one thing about the Mets? Sure. The thing that scares me the most about the Mets is that they're not going to handle this Noah Syndergaard blister thing right, and he's going to end up missing like they're never going to really.
Well, first of all, it's not even a blister anymore. Now it's a fingernail. I don't even know if it's on the same finger as the blister.
Oh, okay.
So first he has the
blister.
First
it was the blister. And then I thought they said he pulled him because of blisters the other day. Is that not?
Well, his first start, opening day start, he was pulled for a blister.
Right.
The other night, Friday night, whatever night he pitched against the Marlins, he was pulled because his fingernail was coming off. Like, I think full fingernail coming off his pitching hand. So I think that's why they took him out.
They need to nip this in the bud right now. And if that means skipping him a start, if that means whatever you have to do, right? Because this can't be like Travis, not on the DL lefty, Steven Matz. He never pitches, so I forget his name. I also forget everybody else's name, but But like, it's with Steven Matz's elbow last year, like some days he could go 4 innings and some days he could go 7 innings. Like, just fix it and then have him come back. And if he has to miss a start or two, you'd rather have that happen now than in August, September, July. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
I agree.
But
you just fear with the Mets and their history with injuries that they're just going to screw this up.
I mean, you hope not. I mean, you hope that a blister or fingernail injury is not going to put you on the DL. But then again, if it's on your pitching hand, it probably hurts like a motherfucker.
Right? I mean, every time you throw the ball, it's probably like having lemon juice poured on it.
I mean, listen, you're a lefty, right? Like, I'm a lefty. If I was just lifting things around the house, if I had a busted fingernail like that, it would probably kill.
Right.
Because it would just be like that never-ending, like, stinging sensation or bruising or like swollen and all that stuff. So imagine that, if that. Me lifting things around the house. Now, this is a guy who's going to throw 100 pitches a game. Right. That's going to hurt. It is going to kill him. From what I'm reading, he's going to make his next start. I mean, I think it's either against the Phillies or the Nationals.
And if he comes, but that's the thing, is he got taken out of that game at 80 pitches. He was in the 6th inning and he had 80 pitches. He was going to go 8 in that game probably.
What I would do is, I think his next start would be Wednesday. Okay, it would probably be Wednesday against Phillies. I'd push him back first. I'd rather have him for the National Series, if anything.
Yeah, rest him.
So I would skip him for the Philly start and then maybe push him back to Friday or Saturday, whatever first.
And see if you can get an extra.
And see if or even if you have to pitch him Sunday night against Scherzer. Because that's really what the tentative rotation is right now.
It just seems insane. I'm sorry. It just
seems
like
I understand. I mean, it's a little weird. It's such a weird injury, like a blister, and. And I saw another pitcher had a blister the other day, too, that left after like 6 innings.
Toronto.
Yeah, there was Aaron Sanchez.
They put him on the DL?
So, I mean, that's like a scary thing. And you hope that now if you see that, if you're a Mets fan, it's got to scare you a little bit because they both had the same injury and one guy's on the DL and the other one isn't. So figure it out. All right. Let's do like a week, kind of a brief review of the first few weeks of baseball. As we said before, one of the biggest surprises is a lot of the teams that are predicted to go to the playoffs and even go to the World Series are off to horrible starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Brutal.
I mean, you mentioned it before. Before we came on the air, it was Texas. Toronto's off to a bad start. Cleveland is off to a bad start. St. Louis is off to a bad start. Even the Giants are another team is off to a bad start. Now.
These things even themselves
out.
Usually,
it leads me to believe that it's going to even itself out, and teams are going to start making that run. But
it's not going to happen for everybody.
One team I'm worried about right now is Toronto because they just look bad.
Well, also Donaldson's out. Yeah. Let's be fair. He has a strained calf, and we all know with calf muscles, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 6 months. We honestly don't know, and doctors will tell you the same thing. Mike Francesa has that guy on Sunday mornings who's awesome. That doctor he has on the NFL show, and that guy. It's what he says. He goes with calves. He goes, you just don't know because. I don't understand how it works, but apparently the way that the calf works is that you could re-injure it very easily and think it's totally healed, and just have it happen to you. So they're going to be very careful with him. Aaron Sanchez goes on the DL, and they've just been bad. They've been really bad.
Yeah.
Their bullpen's been bad. They can't hit. They can't score. Like, when you think about it, without Josh Donaldson, without Edwin Encarnacion, that's probably almost 60 home runs and almost 300 RBIs. I mean, that's a lot of stuff gone.
And all you have to worry about is Tulowitzki and Jose Bautista.
Yeah.
But,
And I don't even really worry about Tulowitzki anymore. You just don't hear about him anymore.
And the thing is, Toronto's pitching wasn't really that great going into the season, and it's kind of...
Well, but that's something that I've been... So you watched, MLB Tonight and all that stuff, and when the way everybody talks about the Toronto pitching rotation is like, the people call them one of the best rotations in the league.
And
I'm like, because they did it 1 year? They did it 1 year?
But again, J.A. Happ had a good year last year, not off to a great start this year. Aaron Sanchez is already on the DL.
Yeah.
Stroman really hasn't been that great either.
He had a 4-something ERA last year.
So, I mean, it's tough to...
unbelievable.
But again, it's just they always have these, like, sexy team picks. Toronto has the best rotation. Well, they really don't have the best rotation. There's quite a few teams in the league have better rotations than them. So, you got that. Another team off to a really bad start are the Mariners, although they've kind of picked it up a little bit recently. But there was that rough first week where they were like 0-6 or 1-5, and they were just losing like heartbreakers. Like when they lost the game to the Angels, where the Angels scored 6 runs in the 9th.
Yep.
But again, Seattle's another one of those teams that I feel like everybody's jumping. They kind of jump on their bandwagon after they got Nelson Cruz with Cano and Seager and all that. But there was nothing we ever really liked about Seattle. Felix Hernandez is another year older. He's pitching okay. I think, not great or anything. They traded Taijuan Walker in the offseason to get Gene Segura. I mean, so other than that, their rotation leaves a lot to be desired. And their manager is still a bit raw. Service has only been the manager for 2 years. Yeah. This is his second year managing what is a big-time ball club, a team that's always has under pressure to contend every year because they're spending money on bringing guys in.
I'm not worried. The two teams I'm not worried about are the Texas Rangers and the San Francisco Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two teams I'm not worried about because I think the Giants have enough in the tank and have enough experience on that team to be able to turn it around in an instant. And also their rotation is too good. I mean, when you have Bumgarner and even somebody like Samardzija, who is your 4th or 5th starter, is a good guy, and Cueto and all those guys. And Matt Moore's been good. He's not been awesome this year, but he's been better.
But what's been killing the Giants this year is Melanson.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Out of the pen.
But we all said that, right? Like, they got the worst of the closers available. They should have spent the extra money and gone after somebody else. They should have gone after Kenley Jansen. Now, I know you don't want to give up the first-round pick, but, man, if your window's closing, who gives a shit about your first-round pick? That might not be in the major leagues until Buster Posey retires. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
No, I know.
It's insane. So I tend to worry less about the Giants and the Rangers because I think the Rangers have too much talent. They have enough pitching with Hamels,
and a lot of
youth. If Darvish can ever stay healthy, their bullpen's good and their hitting is unbelievable. That kid they got playing Mazzaro is an excellent hitter. Roughneck Odor, they're all very good. The team that is not going to be good is St. Louis,
and that's
But Craig, this happens to everybody.
And the thing is, like for example, normally last night you go into that Wainwright Pineda matchup,
you
think Wainwright's going to give you like a solid game, and he has looked bad.
Yeah, I mean the folks, if you haven't seen the Greg Bird home run, go look at it and see where that ball lands. Balls don't go there in Yankee Stadium. I mean, he almost
hit the 4 train on the way
he almost did. It was so far. It was so far that Greg Bird looked at it for a second, like he even knew it was gone. And Greg Bird is a guy who's not a showy guy. Like he's he's like Derek Jeter type. He doesn't say nothing without saying. He says something without saying nothing at all. So you got to go look at that. But the bigger problem for me for St. Louis is this, and it's what happened to the Yankees too at the end of their run. When you are constantly good, when you constantly have a winning record, and Major League Baseball where you're constantly drafting 23, 24, 25 and up, it's only going to last so long that you can keep finding those guys that continue to be good in those spots without ever getting the best guy or without ever getting the second or third best guy. You know what I mean? And sooner or later, your farm system's going to be affected. It just is. And also the fact that the Cardinals are apparently refusing to spend money anymore, except for signing Dexter Fowler. You know what I mean? They've just let a bunch of guys walk. They traded a bunch of guys away. And now they're just, it's like square pegs, round holes, man. They're playing guys that are playing out of position. Their defense is abysmal. Their bullpen sucks. I mean, it sucks. I mean, they gave up 5 runs yesterday to the Yankees to the 6, 7, 8, 9 hitter. I mean, it was unbelievably bad. Yeah. And they're just, there's no one in sight. And in that division,
well, the
that
thing
division
is
at 3 and 9, they're done. They're
done. They go into the year and they think they have everybody in place.
Yeah.
You know, like the Colton Wongs and the Randall Grichuk.
Who's having a bad year. Grichuk is striking out a bunch.
Right? And, you know, and they all think that they, you know, okay, we don't really need much. So we get our leadoff hitter, we get Dexter Fowler, and we're good. We re-signed Carlos Martinez, who had a very odd
it was the greatest
outing.
game ever.
It was such a weird stat line.
It was Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn. It was like a Wild Thing Vaughn stat line.
Or like Ebby Calvin LaLouche from Bull Durham.
Nuke. Nuke to you, my friend.
Walked 18, struck out 18.
Yeah. What did he walk? I think it was 7. It was walked 6, struck out like 10.
Yeah.
And like threw 100 pitches in 6 innings. It was unbelievable.
Very odd, you know, stat line. But then again, at the same time, Walker's been very up and down. Wainwright hasn't been good for the past, you know, maybe good year now. You know, and I don't know if that's just age or just maybe, you know, stuff taking toll on its arm.
Since he hurt his Achilles, right?
Yeah. So he's been, you know, he hasn't been that effective. So this could be the time, this could be the changing of the guard right now with St. Louis. Because, look, we all know the Cubs are going to win the division. I mean, it's pretty...
Yeah, I'm not really worried about that. Now, you don't want to get swept at home by the Cubs.
And the thing is, if the Cubs even sniff someone getting close to them, you know they're going to make a deal to, like, just pretty much put the nail in the coffin. Okay?
They're going to trade for Aroldis Chapman again.
That would be funny, but I don't think they're going to do that. It would be pretty funny if they did that, though. But, you know, but again, we already know the Cubs are going to win. So the Pirates are another team that are off to, like, kind of an start. You know, but you already know
sweeping the Cubs at home helps.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, you already know that Cincinnati and Milwaukee are not going to be there for very long.
No way.
Okay.
Cincinnati. First of all, Cincinnati has 4 starting pitchers on the DL right now.
Yeah.
So that's going to end soon. Look, a lot of these teams, Colorado and Arizona being at the top of that division right now. If I'm the Dodgers and the Giants, I mean, the Giants are only 4 games back. If I'm the Dodgers and Giants, I'm about half worried. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing. We know that Milwaukee and Cincinnati are not going to do anything, right? No. We know that. But we kind of don't about Arizona and Colorado. They have enough to continue doing what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like they have enough pitching and they have enough hitting.
In Arizona's case, what killed them last year was A.J. Pollock getting hurt and Shelby Miller being terrible.
Yeah, and if those guys...
They traded a lot to get, and Dave Stewart got fired because of that deal.
Yeah, it was
because
he
traded
deal.
Dansby Swanson to get him, and Shelby Miller was awful. Now, I haven't seen his stats too much this year. I think one start he was okay, but I don't remember the last one. But as long as Goldschmidt, Pollock, and they're a young team, the Cuban guy Tomas, if they keep hitting, they're going to be fine, and they're going to be competing. Greinke's gotten off to a pretty decent start. You know, the rest of the rotation, you know, Walker's been a little shaky the first couple of games, which maybe is kind of a telling sign as to why Seattle wound up trading him to get Segura. But overall, I mean, the Diamondbacks are that team that if it can all mesh together, they're going to be right with the Dodgers and the Giants for a shot at the wild card or even the division.
It looks like, I mean, you really can't get much more sort of androgynous than
so it's been
this.
Like really hot and cold.
He's 1-1 with a 5.06 ERA. So probably one good, one bad. And there you go. But look, I mean, but again, but what I'm saying is you don't know. Like if Shelby Miller pitches well and the other guys play well, they could continue doing that. You know what I mean? So that's what's different to me between the West and the Central.
Here's what I will say about the Dodgers. I totally think they are the first team that makes a panic move.
Oh, yeah, easy.
And I was reading it before I came over here to do the show. There's a rumor already going around that they're talking to the Brewers about Braun.
I could totally see that.
But I'm saying at the same time, like that's, to me, like this early in the season, it's such a fucking panic move.
It is. But again, you also might get him for cheaper right now. It
Maybe.
might cost you
It
less.
depends on who called who first.
Right, but if Milwaukee is looking to get rid of him, now Milwaukee's going to have to start losing for them to do that. That's the thing. If Milwaukee keeps winning, they can't do that. They can't trade him away.
But you and I both
Yes.
agree that they're not going to be
there's no
winning
way.
for much longer.
Look, let's be fair. With all the teams that are winning their divisions right now, or like in second place in their division right now, Minnesota's very surprising, I think.
I think they're off to a decent start for a young team, but they kind of, last year, I think, wasn't last year they got off to that really good start?
Oh, yeah, and then they crapped the
just
bed.
completely and then crapped the bed. The White Sox are surprising off to a decent start. I know Frazier's been out with an illness and everything like that, but they've been pretty decent to start. The Tigers are kind of where I expected them to be.
Yeah,
I kind of
Cleveland and the Cubs, they're going through the hangover, guys. It happens. You're talking about players that played probably 15 more games than they ever have in their life. And if you don't think that carries over to the next season, it does. You don't get as much time off. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's also something you have to deal with.
And one team I'm also not really surprised at the top right now, even though I didn't really pick them to do that well, the Orioles.
No.
But the thing is, Britain's now in the DL, which is that's huge as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, again, their rotation is very, very questionable.
And his injury is the forearm. It's the forearm tightness,
Yeah,
which always starts to scare the hell out of you a little bit, right? Because
that's
the preamble.
Dr. James Andrews is literally the Grim Reaper.
But that's the thing. The Orioles are built on power and bullpen, and they're pitching to do just enough to get into their bullpen. And if you lose the bullpen,
it's like every time a pitcher gets hurt. It was like, have you watched SNL at all?
Not really.
Recently?
No.
Okay. Have you seen any of the Trump skits?
Well, some of them, yeah.
When he has Steve Bannon.
Yeah.
And it's just basically the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
That's Dr. James Andrews.
Yeah.
Because pretty much the minute is like an elbow soreness or discomfort right away. It's almost like a death march, pretty much. But for the Orioles, again, they have Dylan Bundy in the rotation this year. Gausman's been off to a decent start. Tillman is still hurt, which is, again, that's their number one, pretty much. I watched enough of Wade Miley during that Yankee game, I guess the Sunday game when the Yankees came back and won. That was like, holy shit, how does this guy still have a job? I mean, he's probably better suited to be more of a bullpen guy. He barely got through 5 innings.
Yeah.
Barely. And then, of course, you have Ubaldo Jimenez, which is, again, it's such a hot and cold type of pitcher.
Yeah.
So.
But, I could see them. I mean, we're not necessarily high on the Orioles, but the Orioles are one of those teams that every year they contend.
They mash.
Whether they make it or not is up to them. But the thing is that one of their strong suits is now weakened, and we don't know for how long. This 10-day DL is, it could be, again, you don't know. Forearm strains
Especially
are
for a
weird.
pitcher.
Right, exactly.
And in April, the Orioles maybe just be reluctant to say, sit him out for as long as we can until we figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, because we don't know what to do right now.
All right.
Go.
Biggest surprise?
For me, the biggest surprise has got to be the Reds being in first place right now.
Yeah?
I mean, that no one
Surprise
predicted
good,
that.
I guess, is what you're
Very
saying.
good surprise.
Good, yes.
Good surprise, even if it's just for a very short period of time.
Of course.
At least it gives, the fans in Cincinnati something to be excited about. And again, at the same time, Brian Price is doing something a little differently. He doesn't necessarily have a closer. And I think his bullpen is he doesn't go to the same guys all the time. I think he just kind of rotates everybody, and it's working. How long it works remains to be seen. But right now, I would say the Reds being in first place in their division is really, really probably surprising. You?
The good surprise for me, let's see. I guess I can't say Toronto being bad is a good surprise.
Because we already talked about it.
No, but I'm saying it's not a good surprise. I guess I'm going to go Miami.
Man, they're off to a
you
good
win
start.
3 out of 4 against the Mets. I know they play the Mets well. They're in 7-5. They're tied for first place. Their starting pitching has been pretty good. Their players are hitting. The one kid is destroyed the Mets this weekend.
Justin Bohr?
No, Diaz. Not Diaz. It's not the second base. Well, the second baseman kills them too.
D. Gordon.
D. Gordon.
Oh,
Totally.
Ozuna.
Ozuna, yeah, it killed him. So I'm going to say that. Now, hopefully this is something they can continue, because I think that it could be. Now, you're going to hate when I say this because you're a Met fan, but how much fun would it be to have the Marlins, Nationals, and Mets all good all year long, all fighting for the same spot? It would be very fun as an outsider to watch. So I'm going to say the Marlins are my good surprise. What's your bad surprise?
Bad surprise.
You can. I'm going to say it, so we can just both agree on it because there's really nothing else you can pick.
What, Toronto being terrible?
Yeah. Right, they're 2-9, and the stat is that no team that started at 1-9 has ever made the playoffs ever.
Oh, geez, but that's the stat. That's like I've seen shit like that happen so much where they do the stat and then the opposite happens.
Yeah, but the opposite.
And then of course Toronto go on a 10-game winning streak
it's
and then
not
right back
happening.
in it.
Craig, that division.
And this is now keep in mind this is also as they're about to give Gibbons an extension.
Yeah,
and they're already off to a 2-10 start, which I don't even know if they've done it yet.
Enjoy it, Gibby.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Toronto being off to a bad start is probably the worst. See, here's the problem. You see, teams that are in last place right now, their records are not 2-10.
No,
they're like 6-9, 6-7. You know, I think Texas, maybe St. Louis and Texas are probably the next two. I think St. Louis is 3-9 and Texas is 4-9. But Toronto, just because everybody predicted them to win the AL East.
Well, they've been in the AL Championship Series 2 years in a row.
So in that sense, yeah, it's a huge problem. And now the Donaldson injuries, that's a killer this early in the season.
The problem that they have more than anything else is that if they were in the AL West where there's only one team over 500, but they're in the AL East is hard. The Orioles are not going to go on a 10-game losing streak. They're just not. The Red Sox are not going to go on a 10-game losing streak because they have Chris Sale and they have enough pitching and enough hitting. The Yankees have started out well. Now, you don't know what that's going to turn into, but you assume at least that they'll continue even at a pace that won't allow to come back. They're 6.5 games out already. We just played 12 games.
And that'll be another team that may wind up making somewhat of a panic move to get something done.
I'm going to say the same thing.
What?
It's Toronto because they're brutal.
That's what we said.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
what's the next one?
Surprising?
Yeah.
See, I use my surprising on Cincinnati.
No, go individual. Surprising. A player. Yeah. Surprising good.
Pull up the teams, and I'll probably give you a better idea.
Jeez. Hey, relax over there, okay? Yeah.
We have so little time.
Will you stop with your backseat driving?
Surprising. Player-wise. Man, this is
good surprising.
Good surprising. For what it's worth, I kind of like what Tampa's doing. I know it's a kind of a weird surprise.
No, it's not.
Because I think their hitters are actually pretty decent.
Sure.
Chris Archer's pitched well to start the season, and that's been kind of a big thing because he was really bad last year. It's such a young team, and they're still a bit raw in some areas and stuff. But Longoria's been off to a pretty good start for them. I still think at the end of the day they'll be either a 4th or 5th place team. But, you do have to like the fact that they're somewhat competitive, I guess. And that would be probably my surprise. I would say my other surprise would be Will Myers being off to a pretty good start in San Diego after just signing that big extension. He's already hitting over 400. The Padres are winning games. Again, they're an under 500 team, but still, those are like little things. And sometimes you got to, it's easy to see what the good is in a really good team, but sometimes you always take a look at stuff with, mediocre to bad teams. And a guy like Will Myers is a guy they're really building around, to, I guess, build for the future. And so far, the fact that he's off to a good start is making him look really good for giving him that extension.
I'm going to say Trey Mancini.
Oh, he's doing the Orioles, right?
Yeah, he's 7 home runs in 12 games. He's a rookie. Now, that the pitchers will make adjustments now, but you got to see how he reacts. But to start off, when you're the Orioles, that's excellent because it's somebody you didn't think was going to do that, and he's probably carrying the team a little bit. So to watch him has been a little fun, and apparently all the other players are using his bat, and they keep hitting home runs, and it's kind of a weird thing.
It's like the chicken bone cross in Bull Durham.
Yeah.
It's like so there you have it. Pretty much.
No, surprise bad.
Surprise bad.
Player. Just give me one player. That's sucking.
Sucking big time.
Would you like me to go first since I already have mine?
Is it Reyes?
No.
Oh. Go.
Edwin Encarnacion has been brutal for the Indians so far. He's batting 200, and that's not the problem because that's a DH. That's fine, but you can bat 200, but he has 1 homer and 1 RBI in 12 games for them. If that team's going to win that division, Edwin Encarnacion has to be significantly better than that. Significantly. And it's not like he went from the American League to the National League. He went from the American League to the American League. It shouldn't be that big of a difference.
Right.
So he's having it off to a really rough start. Real rough.
Bad for me. How's Harper doing to start?
He's all right. He had a walk-off homer last night.
And Murph?
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same?
Yeah. You can't.
Fucking miss that guy so much.
Yeah. Yeah, how's Neil Walker?
I have no problem with Neil
I'm
Walker.
kidding.
No, but it's just like, just the fact that made no effort to try to sign him whatsoever. Just like,
When you think about what he got compared to what you paid Neil Walker
Exactly.
over the last couple of years, it's insane.
I don't really have a bad surprise player. I really haven't caught up too much on, batting averages and stuff like that. I guess maybe the bad for me is just seeing that pitchers are barely making it to the 6th inning right now.
Yeah, it's tough.
Starters are definitely having a tough time and, and all that stuff. But outside of that, I don't really think there's anything wrong. This is the Polar Opposites podcast. Check us out as always at polaropposites.podbean.com. We are currently live right now at Spreaker.com.
Indeed.
And also follow us on Twitter at polaropposites1. Well, Maddie, we got
20 minutes.
We got 20 minutes before closing time.
Yeah, we're not going to do NBA playoffs because they just started. It's one game. You can't tell me anything about one game.
I'm going to be very brief on hockey, and I mean very brief, because a few things have stuck out that have not surprised me one bit.
Go ahead.
Number one, the fact that Bruce Boudreau is on the verge of getting eliminated again in the first round, this time as coach of the Wild. Remember we talked about last year how he couldn't win a Game 7?
Yes.
And with the Ducks and everything. Now he's on the verge, and the St. Louis Blues have played really well. The Wild have a pretty decent team, too, with guys like, Parise and Ryan Suter and everything, but they just can't put it together, and they're on the verge of getting eliminated, right now 3-0. I love the way Edmonton's playing right now. They get a big win last night in Game 3 in San Jose. They win 1-0. Connor McDavid's been exactly as advertised, and I hate to say this. Actually, I don't hate to say it because I think he's a prick anyway, but, man, Sidney Crosby, he does some dirty shit.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see the Columbus game?
I did.
Or
I
the clip?
I saw the play.
We saw the play on Hartnell, right?
Yeah.
And it looked like, at first he looks like he falls to the ground and like, okay, he slips and falls on the ice. And then he takes that little dive, and that was just enough to just set them off altogether. And then that one guy in Columbus just went nuts at the end of the game, just started beating the shit out of everybody on the Penguins. But holy crap, and he gets away with it. And it was like so blatant. And I saw it in another game, too. I can't remember what game I saw it in. It wasn't an Islander game or anything like that or a Ranger game. But he did something again. Oh, it was like a high stick to someone, I think, on the Panthers. And, like, it was clear as day. And he did it, like, totally intentionally, and he never got called.
That's home, that's the
and I'm just like,
that's
I was
the great
stunned.
player thing that we've seen. Michael Jordan, LeBron James, all the guys.
And the thing is, I'm not saying it because I hate him. I mean, the thing is, he's a great hockey player. No one will take that away from him. He's won his cups. He's the face of the NHL. But, man, he gets away with some shit.
Sure.
And it's unreal to me. And, like, it was bad. Like, those two plays I pointed out. I wish I could remember which one it was. I don't remember what game it was. But he literally hits the guy with his stick. I think he catches him in the nuts, actually. And, like, the guy just goes down. And then, of course, what it leads to is like a 3-on-2 for the Penguins. I don't even think they got a goal in that play. But it was bad. It was overall. As for the other stuff, really surprised Toronto took Game 2 against Washington. Austin Matthews has actually played, pretty decent. I know the stats don't really show it, but he's been actually really good to start and everything. Washington's been a little disappointing for me because they're the number one. They went out at the trade deadline, get Shattenkirk, and they look like they're fighting too much, kind of like last year, or the year before when they played the Isles. It just seems like they should be dominating this team a little bit, and they're just not. And they look like they're off to a bad start. Ottawa game on Saturday was great. The Ottawa-Boston game where they won. The Ottawa came back in overtime, and it was just like, you want to see a breakdown of a team. The Boston Bruins just completely melted down because they had that game for the first two periods. They played really well in that game. They dominated that game, and they just completely fell apart. Guys wide open for goals. And I'll just leave it with this, for the Rangers. This is just a minor hiccup to get to the Stanley Cup.
Stop. Will you stop?
This is just a minor speed bump.
Will you stop with your nonsense? You give us nice hockey breakdown, and then you got to pull your nonsense. There's no jinx to be had here, sir.
This is a minor speed bump.
There's no jinx to be had here. The Rangers are overmatched. I've not watched nearly as much hockey as probably the people listening to this podcast right now. But I can tell you right now that the style of play the Rangers play and the style of play that the Montreal plays, Montreal's going to win 9 out of 10 times.
Again, this
power does not beat finesse in the playoffs.
Just
finesse does not beat power in the playoffs. It doesn't happen.
It's just a minor speed bump to the cup.
Let's talk the NFL.
Ranger fans are
I'm not letting you get.
But here's what I will say. Okay, everything we talked about last year about the Rangers,
same thing,
same exact thing. Their inability to score at home, Their star players are nowhere to be found.
Power play.
Kreider has disappeared off the face of the earth. So far, they've only gotten goals from like Tanner Glass.
Their best line is the fourth line. Is the best line.
And Grabner. Nash has been okay. Stepan non-existent. McDonough non-existent. None of these guys.
And you can't
then
blame
it goes
Henrik.
right back, and it goes back to everything we've always said. They rely too much on Henrik Lundqvist to save them.
Listen, if you got 56 shots coming at you, the fact that you only give up 4 goals is amazing.
But on top of that, it looks like they have these really bad defensive breakdowns right in front of him.
Yeah.
They don't push guys away from the net. You know, with the Canadian guys, those guys are hanging out in front of the net all day.
Yeah.
And until they figure that out, they're never going anywhere. That being said, it's just a minor hiccup to get to the cup. They're winning the cup.
Stop your nonsense.
They're winning the cup.
Let's talk about the terrible Jets and the NFL draft.
Here we go. NFL draft a week from Thursday.
Indeed. Exciting times.
Okay.
Exciting times.
And it seems like every 15 minutes someone new has a mock draft out.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, like, listen, they pull these out of their ass.
Oh, yeah. That's why the only one to watch
Is Mayock.
is Mayock. He releases, I believe it's the night before.
The night before the draft.
It's the only one he does the whole time. Because if you go to NFL.com, and this is why to go to NFL.com, because they put 4 of them right next to each other. And it's hysterical to watch how sort of schizophrenic the whole process is.
Now, what makes me laugh about it, number one, is the other day CBSSports.com posted a 6-round mock draft.
Yeah.
How the fuck?
Yeah.
Now, listen, granted, it's just wishful thinking, you know.
Sure.
And I'm sure whoever
Well,
that
they know the
guy's a
guys.
fan of, whatever team that guy's a fan of, he made sure his team got all the guys he wanted them to get. Okay, so that's besides the point. We don't need a 6-round mock draft. We don't know, and honestly, we're not really sure if we care what teams are going to do in the 6th round of a draft.
No, because you can't tell me that guy's going to be good. See, the thing about the 1st and 2nd round is that guy's supposed to start for you right away.
Yeah.
Or at least make a giant contribution, whether it be starting or coming in. Now, you know it's nuts because the first guy, Chad Reuter, has the Browns taking Mitch Trubisky. If the Browns take Mitch Trubisky with the first pick, the entire team should be moved to Iceland. Okay,
it's not bad this time.
It's not bad this time of year, but they should be moved there and they should not be allowed to exist because he's not.
But here's the problem with mock drafts in general is these guys really take it seriously.
Oh, he thinks that's a great deal.
There are some that are actually fun to read because they make trades up.
Yeah.
And there was one I saw the other day. I can't remember. It was again on CBS Sports. This guy put together a 3-round mock. Okay.
And had a bunch of trades.
But he had a bunch of trades, and he eventually, at the end of the day, he had the Jets at like 15 in the 1st round, trading down a couple of places, and literally had the Jets with 4 third-round picks. Which was like, and he brings up, and he puts together the deals. And the deals make sense. I mean, it's not going to happen. But again, it's just the point of the guy's just having fun with it. It's not like, he's like, yeah, it's probably not going to happen, but this is what I think would be cool to happen. You know, if I was doing a mock draft. But some of these guys really do take it seriously. There's no way the Browns are taking Mitch Trubisky 1st overall.
No, they can't.
You have to take Myles Garrett.
But here's the other thing. Like, you have to look at general consensus. And I'm not saying that the guys like Mayock and all the ESPN douches and all the other guys that are out there that do these things for a living, they all say the same thing. They're all saying the same thing. And when you get a consensus like that, I'm not saying it has to be true, but you can pretty much go down that road.
The quarterbacks this year remind me of the Geno Smith draft.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically when Geno Smith was coming out of West Virginia, he was projected to be a number 1 overall pick from some teams.
Right.
But then it completely fucking snowballed because none of the quarterbacks in that draft got a very good grade where it was like they have to take him number 1 overall. It was one of those things where, yeah, he could be a top 10 pick or he could literally fall to the bottom of the 1st round. You know, and I think that was the draft that E.J. Manuel wound up being the number 1 quarterback taken.
Yeah.
Granted, it was mid-1st round. But still, this is the same type of thing because you have Mitch Trubisky, you have Deshaun Kaiser, and you have Deshaun Watson. And then you have a guy, Pat Mahomes from Texas Tech, who's shooting up draft boards, but has never run a pro-style offense before. So you start to wonder where are you getting this from? His reason why he was so good was because the Texas Tech offense was tailor-made around him. In the NFL, it's not going to be like that.
Right.
So it's hard for me to justify drafting Pat Mahomes anywhere in the 1st round. Yeah, he could throw a ball 40 yards. So can half of these guys. It's going to be whether they can adapt to an NFL offense. Their reads are good, and they're not turnover prone. Nothing about these quarterbacks warrants, I don't even think, a top 10.
No, probably not. Now let's get to it real quick. The Jets, you have Deshaun Watson, O.J. Howard, and Jamal Adams. O.J. Howard, if you don't know, is a tight end from Alabama. Jamal Adams is the safety from LSU, who actually some people consider to be the best athlete in the draft. I'm not sure if that's necessarily true or not. Look,
I've heard a lot of different mocks. I've seen some mocks with the Jets taking Trubisky. To be honest,
you can't take a quarterback. You can't.
Exactly.
Not there. You can't.
It's exactly. So this is what I think. I think because there's been a lot of talk about the Jets and Trubisky. So I can think of two things. Either they absolutely love this guy, which would be a huge mistake to draft him 6th overall.
Unless you actually love him and are going to give him the keys of the car. If he's going to start day one, then it's fine.
Or you're using it in hopes
to trade down,
that a team will trade up for you to get him. And you're hoping that Cleveland is watching. The Chargers, I don't know about the Chargers so much, but Rivers is getting old, so they may consider it, but I don't know if they will. But it's the only justification I have for even considering Mitch Trubisky 6th overall.
Now, if you can't trade down, taking the tight end there is not a bad thing.
I don't think it's
not
a bad thing
at all.
I think you need an offensive player. I know the Jets secondary is going to be bad this year. I know. But at the same
with
time,
good defensive line pressure, they can be helped.
But at the same time, I would rather see, listen, if you're going all in this year, and granted you have McCown, but I think it's really going to be Hackenberg that's eventually going to take over this year.
You would hope.
Okay? Then you have to get weapons around him. O.J. Howard would be a perfect weapon, mainly because it's going to take pressure off him. Just like I said, a running back would take pressure off him. If you draft a Leonard Fournette type of guy, okay, to go with Bilal Powell, maybe have Matt Forte as more of a third down back, give him some carries, but he can't carry the ball 30 times a game or 25 times a game or whatever. So in that sense, either one of those guys would be fine. I'm okay with Jamal Adams. I don't have a problem with Jamal Adams. I'll take him because we need a safety anyway.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm okay with that. I don't think Lattimore is going to fall to them at 6. I actually think he's going to go higher because I've seen a lot of mocks also him going to the Bears.
Right.
3rd overall. And outside of that, I don't know about the other guys too much. Malik Hooker, the other cornerback, I think, from Ohio State. To me, I'd rather just go for either O.J. Howard because you're not going to get him anywhere else, or Leonard Fournette. Those are my two right now. And if they draft Mitch Trubisky, I'll be so fucking pissed.
Well,
okay.
It may happen.
In that sense. So what's it looking like right now for the G-men?
Well, I mean, it's when you draft 23rd, when you draft that late, you're sort of at the whim of the teams before you and their sort of weird things that they do. You remember last year San Diego drafts Joey Bosa. Now, Joey Bosa was supposed to go in like the top 5 anyway, but nobody thought he was going 3 to San Diego. So
and now they look good for drafting because he's been really good.
And so the Giants, this is to me, the 23rd spot is a best available at a position of need. So if you think that Ryan Ramczyk from Wisconsin or Garrett Bowles or the tackle from Alabama happens to still be there, if you think they are the best players on offense, and I'm going to say it again, on offense to take there, you take them. If the kid from Miami, the tight end from Miami, Njoku's available, you take him. Because look, let me say this. If the Giants got a tight end, like the kid from Miami or the kid from Alabama, could you imagine matching that up with Brandon Marshall, with Odell Beckham, with Sterling Shepard, with Eli Manning at quarterback, and with Paul Perkins in the backfield? That would be
That'd be a 9-17.
Well, yes, because their defense, everyone will get injured and they'll all be dead. But you also have Dalvin Cook there. I can't take Dalvin Cook at 23. I can take a tight end. I can take a.
I don't think he'll be there at 23.
I can take a tight end. I can take an offensive lineman, but I can't take anything else because if I take it now, unless you hate all the alignment at that place, right? Unless you get to 23 and the kid from Miami's gone, the O.J. Howard's gone. Say 1 or 2 of the tackles is off the board, and you don't like the other guy. If that happens, right? Then the only other position I would go would be defensive tackle to help replace Hankins.
Okay.
But I mean the Giants, I don't want to say they're limited, but they're not drafting a linebacker. They're not drafting a linebacker.
They brought back their whole defense.
Right, but I'm saying like even if they needed a linebacker, they are not drafting a linebacker in the first round. They're not doing it. So we'll see. I would love for them to get tight end. I would like for them to actually start getting into the 21st century of NFL football where having a tight end makes your offense better all the time. And you can look at every team that does it, and they're usually pretty good, right? I'd like them to do that. Or if you have offensive tackle available to help Eric Flowers.
Here's the way I look at it. If you don't want to draft, if I'm the Jets and you don't want to draft O.J. Howard 6th overall, that's fine. Okay? If you think there's someone better, no problem. Here's the thing, though.
It's not Trubisky.
You have to draft a tight end in the second round because that's where they're all going to go, a lot of them. Because that's where a lot of them grade out in the second round. The kid from Miami, Evan Ingram from Ole Miss. He was really good during the combines and then the pro day and stuff like that. Those are a few big guys right there. But the thing is right now is I would rather see – I don't want another fucking defensive player. I'm so sick of this team drafting defensive players.
Well, no, they need offense. They've lost too much offense.
I mean, the thing is, and if you're talking about releasing Decker, which is still a possibility – right now it's all just OTAs and all that stuff right now. But the thing is, if you're talking about releasing Decker, then you're going to really need more offense. Okay, and that's where a guy like O.J. Howard might come in and just play, be that receiver,
right.
Take the pressure off the young receivers as well. I have no problem with them rebuilding. I mean, this is what it is.
You have to.
You have to. Okay, but the fact is I'm so sick of seeing defensive players. I just feel like they don't pan out as well as they should.
But that's not what they need. You can't win anymore with having a really good side on one of your sides of the football, right? They both have to not be equal, but it can't be such a stark contrast. And right now, the Jets is a stark contrast between offense and defense, especially after losing Brandon Marshall and who knows who your quarterback's going to be this year. So I think for the Jets, look.
But would it kill some of the defensive guys we currently have on the roster to just maybe not underachieve?
Well,
maybe guys like, I don't know, Lorenzo Malden, who's supposed to be this great pass rusher and just keeps getting concussions, or Calvin Pryor, who is like just basically like the LaRon Landry or Chuck Cecil of the NFL. Now he just always wants to go for somebody's head, or he's always trying to make a highlight reel, or whatever. The other guys, guys like. I actually think that Justin Burris, their 4th-round pick last year, has potential to be a pretty decent corner in this league. Marcus Williams is pretty good. He's a good ball hawking guy, but he was exposed a little bit in coverage last year. As for the safeties, you have Gilchrist coming back from a torn ACL, and then you have Pryor. The thing is, I think the Jets are okay on defense. They're going to be a bad team. I mean, I think we know that. Maybe not as bad as everyone's making them out to be.
Right.
But I think they're getting young at linebacker with guys. I mean, you have people already judging last year's draft as like, well, there's not enough playmakers. But you can't judge off Darren Lee and Jordan Jenkins, who just got experience playing towards the end of the year, playing more snaps. They're going to be a young defense. Whether they trade Sheldon Richardson, who knows at this point. But overall, I think that you have to start to rebuild that offense.
No, absolutely.
Okay? And listen, you have some good young pieces, guys like Robbie Anderson, Sharon Peake, Jalen Marshall got suspended. But basically, drafting a guy like O.J. Howard or Leonard Fournette will not be bad, and at the end of the day, it's going to take a lot of pressure off your QB.
And if you like one of the offensive linemen, would that be such a bad thing?
No, I would take Ramczyk. Remember last year how all of a sudden, right before the draft, Jack Conklin from Michigan State, who was projected to be a bottom, like a 20th, 21st pick, shot up to 8 to go to the Titans, and he wound up being pretty decent. So I don't have a problem with O-line there either because you need tackles.
Yeah, and listen, if you want these young quarterbacks to be successful, they need offensive line help. There's only so much they can do. Now, I will say this, and this is going to be weird, but if I had to choose one of the quarterbacks, it would be Deshaun Watson over Mitch Trubisky. Mm-hmm. For the simple fact that Deshaun Watson played the best defense in all of college football twice and tore the shit out of them twice. And I know he had playmakers, and I know his offenses and what they run in the NFL. But here's the thing. There's something about a guy who wins, right? There's something about a guy who should have won probably the year before, at least, right? And won this year. I mean, there's something about a guy who wins, and I've never seen that from Trubisky. So I don't know. I mean, you don't know, obviously.
I can't fucking justify to the fan base and to everyone else.
3 and 4.
Okay? I can't justify to the fan base that the number 6 overall pick is going to be a quarterback from North Carolina who's only started 1 year.
Yeah.
And he hasn't played a big game. Mm-hmm. Okay? See, I'll take Deshaun Watson. I like Deshaun Watson.
In the biggest stage, he was excellent
and
twice.
He's always been big. Okay? Maybe just has to tweak some things in his game and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I would probably take him over Trubisky.
That's a guy that New York is not going to scare. You know what I mean? We talked before with Jay Bruce, and I'm not saying Jay Bruce was scared, but it's not going to affect him the same way.
Now the thing is, I don't know what they're like. We already know the Jets want to trade down, and I think making that blatantly obvious might not have been the greatest move of all.
Someone's going to want to move up. There's going to be somebody who wants somebody.
So let's hope the Jets get their wish, and they do get to trade down, because maybe trading down and getting maybe an additional 4th-round pick, because you don't have one this year.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help you.
Indeed.
Maybe that'll definitely help you.
Can I say something real quick about Eli Manning? The reason we're not talking about this? I got to wait. Eli Manning has earned the right.
Memorabilia thing?
Yeah.
I chose not to, because I thought you were going to be really salty about it.
No, I'm not salty about it, but I need to wait. Like, Eli's earned from me as a person waiting
His
for
agent's fucking shady, but
I'm saying, but that's what I'm saying. Like, Eli's earned from me, and I think from the rest of the fans, of all sports fans, that he's been such a good guy with all his stuff he does with kids with cancer and all that stuff, and he's never done anything that he's earned the right to have all the information come out, have him speak first before I make a determination of whether I think the guy's guilty.
My gut tells me is it's never going to go to trial.
Oh, well, they've already said that the emails that they have is already past
like statute of limitations.
Yeah.
Still, it's out there.
It is, and
sometimes
look,
that's worse than going to trial.
But it could also be something as simple as this: Eli was told by his agent that they needed some game-used memorabilia for some people, right? That maybe the lawyer knew. Like, it could have been the lawyer or the guy who's doing that could have been shady with Eli, and then Eli unwittingly just gave the guy, like, stuff. He was like, oh, can you make some stuff look game-used? It's going to this guy's friend. You know what I mean? Like, Eli may not have even known. I'm not defending him, folks. Just relax. I'm just saying that we don't know yet. We have emails that say very specific things, but at the same time, there's still emails taken out of context of larger conversations, right? So we don't ultimately know. And until we do, I'm going to reserve judgment because I think he's earned that.
Well, that's fair. I think when the story broke, I'm sure everybody's initial reaction was, this is really bad.
Of course.
Now, look, we don't know what happened yet. And again, I will give you that much because Eli has been a really classy guy. He's never really been involved in anything bad or anything. You just hope it doesn't get worse, meaning things start coming out and it makes him look worse than it already
Well, the Giants
does.
have already released a statement saying that this is all nonsense.
Now,
it's pure hogwash.
Here's the thing about the statement I didn't like. It was something about damaging his reputation, yet I rarely hear Eli Manning's reputation ever get damaged.
No. Listen, that's the Giants defending their guy, right? And that's what they're going to do.
It's like, they're basically saying, oh, this is just another attempt to run him through the mud.
Well, I can also tell you that, let's be fair, the Giants probably know more about this than anybody else, right? They've probably been clued on this from the beginning.
Team that's also been a little too much controversy. I'm just saying, like, I'm not in a horrible way, but it's just they're a team that rarely makes the news when it comes to shit, and now all of a sudden I feel like they're in the news a little too much.
Yeah, but that's like what?
Look, granted, the boat party, we already know it had nothing to do with the loss.
But also, there's no controversy there. It was their day off.
But again, I'm not killing them. I'm not killing them. Don't think I'm killing them because again, I was the first one that said it didn't mean anything.
No.
It just, I think, for a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in a long time, it just looked bad.
And I get it. I'm just saying that, I still have to reserve judgment until I know all the facts on this.
Because like, when Beckham dropped those passes in that game, everybody was going to fucking blame the boat
Every
trip.
lunatic jackwagon out there was like, oh, freaking Beckham. If he doesn't go down to Miami, that freaking jackass, he catches them balls. You know what I'm saying, Tony? He freaking catches those balls, Tony.
And that's what I'm saying. There's
every friggin'
now,
jackass.
look, I'll give Eli Manning the benefit of the doubt. Because, again, he's never been in trouble. He's always been a really classy guy. The stuff he does outside has been really, tremendous for the community and all that stuff. But you hope there's nothing more to this.
Well, you also, does he seem smart enough to be able to pull this off? I hate to be a jerk, but right? We all think Eli's kind of dim, right?
You called your quarterback a moron.
Right, no, but he's not a moron on the football field, but that doesn't mean you're not a moron in real life. In fact,
Now, again, at the end of the day, I will do the same thing. I think this is bad, and I think it may
totally
get worse.
Bad.
But here's the case, though. In the event this gets worse, hypothetically, how much time do you think he's going to be suspended? Especially if this goes to trial.
To be honest with you, I don't know if he would still be playing by that time. That's how long these things can take.
Because, I mean, look, he's going to have good lawyers that'll file injunction
Right,
after
that's what I'm
injunction.
saying. Like, and the NFL will wait until the court decides what the problem is to do their stuff, right? So I would imagine, since he didn't hurt,
unless they want to move fast,
they can't.
But
They
there's
couldn't
no
do that
precedent.
because there's no
precedent.
Right. So
Okay.
how could you suspend a guy for something that he may not be guilty of in a court of law?
Yeah.
So if the NFL has proof that they're not giving to the cops, well, that's a whole different thing. All right, let's do this.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Really quickly. Non-sports related.
Sure.
On a scale of 1 to 10,
Yeah.
how scared are you of North Korea?
Oh, like the fact that we have a president who is so dim to the world makes me sad. A guy who's traveled all over the place. This is
a country that just had a fucking parade with all their artillery.
He is poking a bear that is covered with landmines. Okay? Like, this guy is an idiot. He is poking a bear named Kim Jong-un, who was raised by Kim Jong-il, who was literally one of the worst people ever. And if you know anything about North Korea, they are not good to their people, but their people do what they want, because if you don't, you're going to end up dead. Okay? Talk to Kim Jong-un's brother. Okay? Or uncle. Brother. Uncle. Anyway, so, look, it's scary. The only good thing to come out of it was that the missile test failed. So at least that, but then you had Mike Pence at the line today with the separates North and South Korea, and he's like, they better. And then Donald Trump yesterday at the friggin' egg ceremony, he's like, they better watch themselves. I'm like, how is it?
But it's Obama's fault.
Well, listen, let's be fair, okay? Nothing is George Bush's fault. Obama got blamed for 9/11 by people. He wasn't even a senator then in the United States Congress. But anyway, so we'll get into so you have all these guys doing all this stuff. But the thing that amazes me, the thing I never understood about our country is this. We're allowed to bomb the shit out of anything we want. We're allowed to use the mother of all bombs in Syria to take out all these underground tunnels, the most destructive bomb that's not a nuclear bomb. We're allowed to flex our muscles at will. But if you're a little-ass country that we don't think is good enough to have those weapons, you're not allowed to even test them. We're going to fire on your country for testing missiles because of what we might be afraid of? Isn't that sort of what we're, like, aren't we doing the same thing we're killing them for?
I read something this morning that apparently now they're not 100% sure that Assad had anything to do with the chemical attack.
Stop. Just stop. Assad had to do with the chemical attack, and the problem that Trump has is that Russia knew about it, and Putin knew about it before it was going to happen, because they flew drone strikes or tried to strike with drones the survivors so there'd be no witnesses to the whole thing. So Russia knew about it. Now we have Trump, who now they're saying they have things that connect his campaign with Russia during the election. And now we have him threatening North Korea, who this guy is a crazy fucking lunatic. And let me tell you something, folks. The reason I get upset about this is because I live in the city that's going to die first.
That's true, actually.
Okay? So if this nuclear holocaust happens, you could say goodbye to L.A., you could say goodbye to San Francisco, you could say goodbye to New York, and you could probably say goodbye to Chicago.
And most importantly, you could say goodbye to the show.
I got my nuclear winter protection gear. You want to do closing time now?
Well, I think it's time. That needs to be done every week as far as I'm concerned. Just like a political rant. We'll cross your political show for like 5 minutes with our show, because I just think it was so funny that everybody still blames Obama for everything. It's quite priceless.
Obama.
Closing time as always. 8 topics, anything goes. All opinions vary. All opinions legal. All opinions matter. And we have been gone for 2 weeks, and there wasn't a lot of news, man. This was tough to put together for 8 topics. So here we go. Maddie, are you ready? Number 1, that you mentioned earlier in the show, Tony Romo opted to retire rather than head to the Texans or Broncos, and will head into the broadcast booth for the NFL on CBS starting next season, replacing Phil Simms. The Cowboys originally planned to release Romo, but opted to keep him in hopes of trading him either before or during the draft. And while the Broncos seem confident in Trevor Siemian and Paxton Lynch as their QBs, the Texans traded Brock Osweiler a few weeks ago and currently only have Tom Savage and Brandon Weeden on the roster. Jay Cutler is still available, but the Texans will most likely look to the draft for their next signal caller. Did the Texans shoot themselves in the foot putting all of their eggs in one basket for Tony Romo?
No, absolutely not. Because Brock Osweiler sucks. They were dumb for signing Brock Osweiler, if you want to say that. But no, because the guys they have on their team aren't any worse or better than Brock Osweiler, so why pay Brock Osweiler all that money to suck and have your fans hate him and have your coach hate him and have basically everybody there apparently hate him. So, no, I don't think they shot themselves in the foot. They took a chance on something, but they also offloaded some excess baggage that they didn't need. And now they have a chance to either draft a quarterback or turn one of the kids they may like into Savage that might be their future quarterback. So, no, I don't think they did. I do think they will probably try and draft a quarterback. Whoever that is, I don't know. But I don't think they shot themselves in the foot. I think it was a good move, no matter what.
I agree. I think that the fact that you were able to get out of Osweiler's contract because he was so toxic. I mean, granted, you gave up a second-round pick, but this is what you got to do if you want to get out from under the guy.
Second round, I mean.
And the thing is, you're here. Yeah, but the second round to a lot of teams is an impact player for offense or defense.
It is, but the Texans are far enough along that if they had a good quarterback, they win that game against the Patriots last year.
But the thing is, you keep hearing stories now about how it just got worse with Osweiler. Even Savage made a comment the other day that was like kind of taking a cheap shot at Osweiler in that sense. Here's the thing that kind of bothered me was after pretty much Romo retired, here come all the articles basically saying the Texans have to sign Jay Cutler right now. Okay, right now. Don't wait. Here's why Jay Cutler to the Texans makes perfect sense. Never mind the fact that he doesn't make sense for any other team in the NFL because of his attitude problem and his injuries and all this stuff. But apparently right now, he makes perfect sense for the Texans, and this is the guy that's going to lead them to the Super Bowl. This is exactly the problem. Now the Texans got out from under Osweiler, let's see what they do with the draft. They could draft a quarterback. They may try to trade up for a guy because if they're afraid that, a team may take him, I don't know. But I don't think Tony Romo would have done much for them anyway. I don't think Tony Romo was leading them to the Super Bowl.
Number 2, Notre Dame quarterback DeShone Kizer will be selected at some point in the NFL draft, although where remains to be seen. However, if you ask Irish head coach Brian Kelly, who's still red-faced, Kizer should have stayed in school for another year and needed more time to develop his skills. Kelly was recently on SiriusXM NFL Radio and said that Kizer has a strong arm and is physically gifted, but needs time to grow on and off the field. Kizer announced his plans to enter the NFL draft back in December after the Irish finished 4-8 and was projected to be a first-round pick. He's currently ranked by CBS Sports as the 45th best prospect of the draft, which puts him as a possible second-round pick. At the end of the day, did DeShone Kizer make the wrong decision to enter the NFL draft when he will most likely not be a first-round pick?
No, I don't think he made the wrong decision. The fact is, Notre Dame was bad. They're going to be bad again this year. And Kizer kind of got a little screwed because I feel like after one bad game, Kelly was ready to bench him, and then he went to some weird quarterback platoon with him and Malik Zaire, and it just was a mess. It really wasn't the greatest environment for Kizer, in my opinion. And the fact is that I could see DeShone Kizer sneaking into the end of the first round. Some team in the second round that maybe used their pick in the first round tries to trade up like the way the Vikings did with Teddy Bridgewater and all that stuff. And I could totally see them drafting DeShone Kizer if they feel like he's the guy. He can play, but he also might be better off being developed by an NFL team and taking a few years and then eventually becoming a starter. So I don't necessarily think he made the wrong decision. And, at that point, again, if you're the 45th prospect, best prospect in the draft, it means you're a low first, high second round pick, in my opinion.
And also next year the quarterbacks are better, so why wouldn't you come out in a year where the quarterbacks aren't great?
Yeah.
Because it may increase your draft stock.
It was like, remember how Matt Barkley was supposed to be like the top quarterback and he stayed in school that year and it completely killed him because he went from being a first-round top 10 pick to basically a fourth-rounder now.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I don't think he made a bad decision at all. Number 3, on Friday, Mike Silver of NFL Network reported the Raiders and Marshawn Lynch had agreed to terms on a deal to bring beast mode to the silver and black. However, that report may have been a bit premature. Shortly after Silver reported it, Ian Rappaport said that they hadn't agreed to parameters of a deal, but it is expected to happen. Then, a source close to Pro Football Talk said the two sides are not even close to a deal yet, and Dave Mailer, a Seattle radio host with 950 AM KJR, reported he received a text from Lynch's agent denying any deal had been reached with the Raiders. Still, it's more and more likely Lynch will wind up with the Raiders and could be only a matter of what Oakland will trade to Seattle for his rights. Is Marshawn Lynch the missing piece to a Super Bowl for Oakland?
I don't know if he's the missing piece. I don't know if you can expect that much from him. I mean, he's been off for a year. He's taken a lot of hits. And also, their offensive line is good, but I wouldn't say the missing piece. I think he's another piece, a big piece, but I don't think I could say missing piece, no.
A year off for Marshawn Lynch, as much as he'll be rested, He's also going to be rusty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in that sense, the Raiders may consider drafting somebody to go along with him because I don't think he's going to be able to carry it. And again, when you play in that division, you're talking 2 each against the Chiefs and the Broncos, plus the Raiders are a playoff team this year, so their schedule's only going to be more difficult this year. You can't expect him to carry the load the way he did in Seattle. And just like you said, he took so many hard hits that one more could easily end his career.
Yeah.
And he's had plenty of back issues over the past few years, especially towards the end of his time with Seattle. He's not the missing piece, but I think it's still a decent piece to add to the Raiders.
Absolutely.
I just think they may need to have a backup plan just in case.
Absolutely. Number 4, Richard Sherman is reportedly on the trading block, and that was confirmed by Seahawks GM John Schneider. The rumors regarding Sherman started 3 weeks ago, and there was talk the Patriots were interested in acquiring him. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the main reason why Sherman is on the block is because he initiated it and is looking to get out of Seattle. Sherman didn't have a good 2016, with the Hawks dealing with injuries for most of the year, as well as clashing with offensive coordinator Darrell Bevel for making shitty calls. I added that part in. That's not Craig. However, if you want Sherman, the price will be similar to what the Jets received from the Bucs for Darrell Revis back in 2013, a high first-round pick as well as a fourth-round pick. Is Sherman worth that price?
Ooh, I don't know.
If you're the Patriots, he is.
If you're the Patriots, definitely. If you're a team on the cusp of going to a Super Bowl, yes, I would definitely trade my first-round pick.
Texans, Patriots.
Yes. Now, if you're a team in the top 15 of the draft, no, he's definitely not worth a first-round pick because, quite frankly, you're going to need more than him to get to where you need to get. He's still only 29, so he's still got youth ahead of him. But to me, he definitely looked like he had a bad year. I don't know if it was injuries or just there were some games he got torched. Okay. But at the same time, if you're that team like the Pats, if you're that team, especially if the Pats deal Malcolm Butler, okay? If you're that team on the cusp of a playoff berth or a championship or a Super Bowl, then Richard Sherman is definitely worth a first-round pick, and I would definitely throw in a fourth-round pick as well.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, you think about it, the Patriots could turn their 2 first-round draft picks that they have into Richard Sherman and Brandon Cooks.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, think about it.
Right, so there's maybe 3 teams I would put in that.
Well, the thing is, the Patriots don't have the first-round pick anymore because they went to the Saints.
Right.
But
and the other one was going to be if they traded Garoppolo. That's
yeah. But, I mean, again, if you're that team like the Chiefs, if you're that team like the Raiders, you can't do it. The Texans, if the Texans are a team, I think they could do it, especially when they lost that other guy that went to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So there's definitely teams out there. If you're a team like Dallas, you can do it.
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, that would definitely boost your defense tremendous. But if you're a team in the high of the draft, the top of the draft, the crappy team, no, it's not worth it. Number 5, the Braves have signed former Phillies first baseman Ryan Howard to a minor league deal in hopes he can provide some insurance in case of an injury to Freddie Freeman. Howard played with the Phillies for 13 years before the team exercised a $10 million buyout on his contract during the offseason. In his final year in Philly, he finished batting .196, but also hit 26 homers. Besides an occasional fill-in for Freeman, Howard could be used as a DH in interleague games as well. Does this signing make any sense at all?
Sure, it's a minor league deal. It's not going to cost the Braves anything. And, if Freddie Freeman has to miss a significant amount of time, you're not going to be good anyway, so what the hell? And to me, what this shows me is that the Braves have literally nobody else in their minor league who could play first base if he were to get hurt. So it doesn't matter. They're not paying him $10 million. They're not paying him any money. He's a minor league contract. What the worst that could happen is he ends up being good or decent again. And maybe you get something out of him if Freddie Freeman happens to get hurt. If not, maybe he hits like 20 home runs in the minors and you trade him somewhere and get something back. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but here's the thing. There's no downside to this move for me. There's no downside at all.
The only downside is if Freddie Freeman misses significant time and he has to play every day.
Right, but that's downside no matter what. I'm saying there's no downside to them signing Ryan Howard. There's none.
Well, I guess in some ways, I think the signing makes sense for Atlanta. I just don't know why Ryan Howard is going to Atlanta. Because I think that at this stage in his career, he might want a shot at a ring and maybe sign with a team that may have been. Now, maybe he didn't get any offers. That could be the possibility. That could be a very good possibility.
It being the Braves means he got no other possibility.
So I guess in some sense, if he reinvents himself with the Braves, even as he comes in as a DH to play in interleague games and all that stuff, then maybe it's not a bad signing. I just don't understand why Howard would eventually, unless he just really misses the game and wants to play, but I just don't understand why he would sign with Atlanta at this stage in his career, especially when he's already getting $10 million for doing nothing.
Maybe.
Number 6. Oh, that's you.
That's me. Number 6. Multiple NFL players will be fined by the league for taking part in an arm wrestling tournament in Las Vegas. Among the players expected to be fined include Steelers linebacker James Harrison, as well as center Marquise Pouncey, Niners linebacker Navarro Bowman, Dolphins wideout Kenny Stills, and Raiders punter Marquette King. The arm wrestling event took place at the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino and violated the NFL policy as league rules prohibit players from appearing at casinos for any sort of promotional purpose, even if it's not related to the casino. But you can put a team there. One player that could face a fine is Marshawn Lynch, who could end his retirement to join the Raiders. Are you more concerned about the fine or the fact that the players could have gotten injured participating in the tournament?
Well, I guess my thing is, were they contestants in the tournament, or were they...
No, they were competed.
Yeah, see, that's where I draw the line a little bit. The fine, whatever. You want to, if you were there and like signing autographs and like hanging out, okay, you know. But man, these are the types of things that worry me. Kenny Stills just signed a big contract with the Dolphins, and you never know if, man, these guys, I mean, you're going up against guys your own size, maybe even a little bigger, and all it takes is exerting so much energy where you could snap your wrist. And that's the last thing you want.
I mean, look, here's my bigger problem is the fucking hypocrisy of this whole thing. It's okay to have a team in Vegas. It's okay to have a team in Vegas, but you can't have players participating what is it? You can't even set foot in a casino, even if for promotional purposes? Then why have a team there?
Well, see, that's what I think, though. I think when the Vegas team officially moves there, they're going to tweak some things to that
tweak
rule.
it now. It's there, right? It's there.
Now, listen, I don't have a problem with them being in Vegas for the tournament. I have a problem participating in the tournament.
Yeah,
because,
don't
again,
hurt yourself. It's stupid.
Yeah, because if we go back to this thing all the time, so we say about shit like the World Baseball Classic and shit we say about in hockey, too. The fact is these guys take part in things when their number one commitment should be to their team. Mm-hmm. And anything that's going to put them as an injury risk it's bad. Any way you look at it, especially a fucking arm wrestling tournament with guys grandstanding, trying to talk shit. Oh, God, it's you don't want to know.
I mean, there's so many muscles you could kill. Watch the movie Over the Top, people.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't give a shit about them being in Vegas to hang out for the tournament. I have a problem with them participating in plain and simple. Number 7, UCLA lost in the Sweet 16 to Kentucky, and guard Lonzo Ball is headed to the NBA draft and will most likely be a top 3 pick. His father, former NFL player LeVar Ball, gave his opinion as to why the Bruins lost in the Sweet 16, saying, quote, "You can't win no championship with 3 white guys because the foot speed is too slow," end quote. Over the past month, LeVar Ball has made some rather outrageous comments saying he could have beaten Michael Jordan, quote, back in his heyday, and that his son Lonzo is better than Steph Curry. Not to be totally outdone, Lonzo has let it be known that he's better than projected number 1 overall pick Washington guard Markelle Fultz, and said he would rather be a Laker than the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft. What do you make of the Ball family's comments?
Well, the kid, whatever, I don't care. He's lived with that father so long. I'm surprised he's not a bigger dick, to be completely honest with you. But here's what I'll say about the father, LeVar Ball. Is that LeVar, the father?
Yeah.
You know who he is? Did you ever see the movie Boomerang?
Yeah.
You know the dad? What's his name?
John Witherspoon?
Yeah. Don't be pussy whip. Whip that pussy. Bang, bang, bang. That's who he is. Now, he's a less sort of lunatic version of it, but he's that guy. He'll just say anything to get a reaction. Doesn't matter. Special mushrooms on the inside of the coat. It doesn't matter. You could even say from Friday, when he's the dad in Friday. Like, it doesn't matter. That's who LeVar Ball is. He is a ludicrous human being who says stupid things.
But, of course, that's not racist.
Well, listen, let's be fair. Like, it's, of course, racist to say that, but it's not something that all of us haven't thought before. So, like, even I, like, when I'm home, like, and the one white guy's on the NBA court, I'm like, yeah, white guy. I'm not like, yeah, white guy, but I'm like, yeah, white guy made a shot. There you go. But the bigger problem to me is that we keep putting a microphone in front of this ass clown's face and allowing him to say stupid crap and then keep doing it over and over and over again and then are appalled by the fact that he's saying these things. So maybe stop doing that.
Okay. No, I agree with you 100%. I mean, he talks out of his ass. I mean, that's just what he's doing, and it's all just attention at this point. Might be a little bit unnecessary attention towards his son. And maybe Lonzo Ball is better than the point guard. I don't really know, but he's not better than Steph Curry.
No.
And whatever. And, part of me thinks if Lonzo Ball was the number 1 pick in the draft, he wouldn't be complaining too much being on the Celtics.
No.
Okay, so, again, you got to stop talking out of your ass when you say things.
When you're making millions of dollars, it's not going to matter what the
sitting on the bench, and you might wind up winning a ring because Isaiah Thomas is in front of you anyway. But the fact is just it gets ridiculous. But, don't sit there and make that comment and then say it's not racist. It's ridiculous because if a white guy said that about black players, forget it. We'd be here from Al Sharpton.
If a white guy said that we didn't win because the black players weren't smart enough,
yeah, we'll be here for fucking Al Sharpton 5 minutes after it takes place.
Number 8, the Ravens have asked the NFL not to schedule their bye week for the week after their Week 3 game in London against the Jaguars. Last year, the Colts requested not to have their bye week after their game in London against the Jags in order to have their week off later in the season. The Ravens are not the only team that's requested their bye week not be in the week after their game in London. The Dolphins will play the Saints in Week 4 and have also requested the NFL not schedule their bye for the following week. Should teams be allowed to pick when they're going to have their bye week if they're going to play in London?
Well, they shouldn't, but they shouldn't. The NFL should not automatically give them the week off right afterwards. Now, the Colts did that last year. They wound up winning their game at home against Chicago. The fact is, I don't blame the Ravens for requesting it because imagine going to London Week 3 and then you're off Week 4, and then you got to play the rest of the season. I mean, it's really
there should be no off weeks the first
shitty.
5 weeks of the season.
It's really
right?
fucking
it's stupid.
shitty.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's really fucking shitty to give a team Week 4 off, and then they got to play the next 12 games to close out the year, which whatever. I don't have a problem with the Ravens suggesting it. I don't have a problem with the Dolphins suggesting it. If this is, I would definitely consider it if I'm the NFL if they really want to do it. Okay, but I wouldn't automatically let them say, okay, well, we'll play in London, but the NFL, I don't know what the guidelines are for the NFL to play in London or whatever, but at the same time, the NFL should just consider it, not necessarily say, okay, fine, but we'll think about it and let you know.
Well, they should definitely think about it because for the East Coast teams, you're not talking about a huge disadvantage. If it's the San Francisco 49ers, which is much farther away, it's different. But you're talking about Miami and Baltimore. It's a 5-hour flight. It's almost the same as going to California. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so there's enough time to recover, and they feel they don't need that. The bye week should be between 8 and Week 12. That's when the bye week should be, and they should fit them all right in there.
Have a bye week, Week 4 is absolutely insane.
It makes no sense. Everyone should play for the first 8 weeks or the first 7 weeks, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, get all your byes out of the way, and then everyone's almost in the same boat, right?
Yeah.
But instead, they do this nonsense, and teams ends up hurting them in the end because when they want to go on a playoff run, they're exhausted because they've been playing for 14 weeks.
All right, real quick, who do the Giants play Week 1 when the schedule comes out? Thursday?
Dallas Cowboys. There's no way it's not happening. In Dallas, of course.
Sunday Night Football?
Sure. 8 o'clock, Maybe even Monday Night Football. Maybe it'll be the 10:30 game on Monday Night Football so I can shoot myself in the face.
I'm going to predict the Jets open up the season against Jacksonville.
That sounds awesome.
It makes sense because the past 2 years they haven't played a division opponent. They've always played somebody outside of the AFC, but not in the East. So I predict Jacksonville.
And by the way, this sucks for both Giants and Cowboys fans. Neither one of us fans want that Week 1 game.
No.
They just don't.
You want it like Week 5, Week 6, and whatever.
It's not hard, guys.
And with that, closing time is officially over.
What?
And this episode of Polar Opposites is over. And we'd like to thank everybody for listening. Check us out, as always, at polaropposites.podbean.com, as well as iTunes. And we are also on Spreaker.com.
Spreaker!
Just type in Polar Opposites, and you'll see the Polar Opposites show come up. And we're also on the Twitter, at Polar Opposites 1. No show next week, but we'll be back the following week. We'll do a little draft recap, do a little more baseball, and we'll continue to discuss the Rangers' march to winning the 2017 Stanley Cup.
Stop with your nonsense.
Enjoy the week, enjoy the draft, enjoy the games, enjoy life, enjoy everything, and enjoy the Rangers marching their way to this 2017 Stanley Cup. And we will talk again in 2 weeks.
Go Yankees. Bye.